Hey, good morning, Bobcat Nation. How are you today? I hope you are doing well. Today is Tuesday. I actually don't know what the date is. I think it's the 12th. I hope you're staying safe and enjoying this time. I know a lot of you are really busy working on your Google Classrooms, being really active in your learning, so I really appreciate that. I know it's difficult, but I really do think you guys are awesome for putting in the amount of work that you guys have been doing. Yeah, so let's get started with Charlotte's Web. All right, so last chapter we read, it was an explosion, and we found out it was actually an egg um, that one of the geese laid that didn't hatch, and it fell, and that's what caused the explosion. So let's see where we're at. I had it all marked, but we had a power outage on our block, so our internet was out. So, all right, sorry about that. We have bad internet. All right, so the name of this chapter is called The Miracle, right? All right, so let's find out what's going on. The next day was foggy. Everything on the farm was dripping wet. The grass looked like a magic carpet. The asparagus patch looked like a silver forest. On foggy mornings, Charlotte's Web was truly a thing of beauty. This morning, each thin strand was decorated with dozens of tiny beads of water. The web glistened in the light and made a pattern of loveliness and mystery, like a delicate veil. Even Lurvy, who wasn't particularly interested in beauty, noticed the web when he came with the pig's breakfast. He noted how clearly it showed up, and when he noted how big and carefully built it was, and then took another look and he saw something that made him set his pail down. There, in the center of the web, neatly woven in block letters, was a message. It said, "Some pig." So Charlotte basically did a web, and in the web, right? So can you imagine going into your garage or in a room and a web actually had English in it? It'd be, whoa, crazy, right? All right, so let's find out what happened. Lurvy felt weak. He brushed his hand across his eye and stared harder at Charlotte's web. "I'm seeing things," he whispered. He dropped his knees and uttered a short prayer. Then, forgetting all about Wilbur's breakfast, he walked back to the house and called Mr. Zuckerman. "I think you better come down to the pig pen," he said. "What's the trouble?" asked Mr. Zuckerman. "Anything wrong with the pig?" "Not exactly," said Lurvy. "Come and see for yourself." The two men walked silently down to Wilbur's yard. Lurvy pointed to the spider's web. "Do you see what I see?" he asked. Then he murmured some words. "Some pig?" Then he looked at Lurvy. Then they both began to tremble. Charlotte, sleepily after her night's excursions, smiled as she watched. Wilbur came and stood directly up, murmured Lurvy in a low voice. "Some pig," whispered Mr. Zuckerman. They stared and stared for a long time at Wilbur. Then they stared at Charlotte. "You don't suppose that spider," began Mr. Zuckerman, but he shook his head and didn't finish the sentence. Instead, he walked solemnly back to the house and spoke to his wife. "Edith, something has happened," he said in a weak voice. I guess if it was a weak voice, I should have read it differently, so I'll read it differently. "Edith, something has happened," he said in a weak voice. He went into the living room and sat down, and Mrs. Zuckerman followed. "I've got something to tell you, Edith," he said. "You better sit down." Mr. Zuckerman sank into a chair. She looked pale and frightened. "Edith," he said, trying to keep his voice steady, "I think you had best be told that we have a very unusual pig." A look of complete bewilderment came over Mrs. Zuckerman's face. "Homer Zuckerman, what in the world are you talking about?" she said. "This is a very serious thing, Edith," he replied. "Our pig is completely out of the ordinary." What's unusual about the pig?" asked Mrs. Zuckerman, who was beginning to recover from her scare. "Well, I don't really know yet," said Mr. Zuckerman, "but we have received a sign." Excuse me. "Edith, a mysterious sign. A miracle has happened on this farm. There is a large spider web in the doorway of the barn cellar, right over the pig pen, and when Lurvy went to feed the pig this morning, he noticed a web because it was foggy, and you know how a spider web looks very distant in a fog. And right spring in the middle of the web there were two words, 'Some pig.' They were actually part of the web, Edith. I know because I have just sat there and seen them. It says 'Some pig.' just as clear can be. There can be no mistake about it. A miracle has happened and a sign has occurred here on earth, right on our farm, and we have no ordinary pig. Well, said Mrs. Zuckerman, it seems to me you're a little odd. It's a spider. No, said Zuckerman, it's a pig that's unusual. It says so, right here in the middle of the web. It's just a common gray spider, said Zuckerman. They got up together and walked down to the Wilbur's yard. You see, Edith, it's just a common gray spider. All right, we'll stop right there. This is a little bit longer chapter. Thursday, but there is a picture of the web. I don't know if you can see it. It says, some pig. I think it's kind of funny that Mrs. Zuckerman didn't think it was a pig. She kind of gave credit to Charlotte, the spider. That's just kind of interesting thing to say, or to see. So remember the title of this chapter is called A Miracle. And what do you think the miracle they're talking about? Yes, right? It's the spider web said some pig, right? And remember, Charlotte says she's going to devise a plan. Devise just means to make up. So make up a plan or devise a plan on how to save Wilbur. So this is part of her plan. So I'm kind of curious what's going to happen next. I wonder if she's going to continue making webs or devising webs with some words in it. So we shall find out. So this is getting interesting. This is one of my favorite books, children's books, I would definitely say. Charlotte's Web, a classic that everyone should read one time in their life. All right, everyone. I hope you're doing well and staying safe. We miss you, we love you, and we cannot wait the day we return to school. And that's it. Take care. Work hard. So awesome. We're very proud of you. I know it's a lot of work, and I know you guys are just like, goodbye, and I will see you next Thursday. I'm losing track of my days here. Thursday, we'll finish up the chapter. All right, everyone. Bye.